Our story begins in Trumbull Valley. We start as a character named Marcus Campbell. Our friend, Ed Jones, was attacked by zombies when we returned from a fishing trip at Lake Tanner. We kill the zombies and decide to go to the ranger station. At the ranger station, we meet Thomas Ritter and a group of people. Thomas tells us to climb the nearest water tower and survey the area. After surveying the area, we hear a gunshot in the distance, so we go to check out the source of the sound. When we reach the source of the sound, we meet Maya Torres, who was shooting zombies. After helping her, we return to the ranger station, only to find everyone there, already dead. Our friend, Ed, decides to check if Thomas Ritter has a wallet or something, when Thomas suddenly reanimates into a zombie and bites Ed. We quickly kill zombified Thomas. Ed takes a walkie-talkie from Thomas Ritter's corpse. Then we decide to leave the area. Suddenly the daughter of Thomas Ritter starts talking over the walkie-talkie. We tell her that Ed needs medical attention, and she tells us to come to the church at Spencer's Mill, where they are staying. While heading to the church, she tells us about the zombie outbreak across Trumbull Valley. After reaching the church, we are greeted by Lily Ritter, the daughter of Thomas Ritter, who spoke to us over the radio. We also meet other characters like hot-headed Alan, cheerful Pastor William, and Sam. Lily tells us that we need medicine for Ed, otherwise Ed might die from the infection. She sends us to a nearby abandoned clinic to collect some medicine with Alan and Sam. After returning to the church from the mission, we learn that Lily has a chronic medical condition called lupus. Later we hear a distress call from Lily's brother Jacob Ritter. Lily requests us for help, so we head out to save her brother. After killing the zombies, we meet Jacob and his boyfriend Eli Wilkerson. Eli seemed afraid of his hillbilly brothers. Eli leaves the place, and we bring Jacob back to our base. Jacob tells Lily about Eli, and she doesn't seem happy about it. After some time, Lily tells us about the local Dr. Hansen, who can treat Ed. Hansen was at the Wilkersons' place looking after Eli. When we reach there, we meet Mickey Wilkerson and Job Wilkerson, the dangerous hillbilly older brothers of Eli. A bunch of zombies attack their house, and we help them kill the zombies. After killing the zombies, Doc Hansen tells us that Eli is dead. So we put a bullet to Eli's head, to prevent him from becoming a zombie. While returning to our base, we hear a radio message from Judge Lawton. She asks all survivors to look for help at Marshall Courthouse, and declares a lockdown. Back at base, Ed gets better with the help of Doc Hansen, and the medicine we collected earlier. Later Lily informs us that Doc is in trouble at the cemetery, so we hurry up and save him. Sometime later, we hear a weird signal from something named Cleo. We go to the source of the signal, and find a lot of valuable items. Back in the church, we find Lily and Jacob arguing over finding a new home site. Lily doesn't want to move, but Jacob wants us to move out. We ride with Jacob and go to the house of his childhood best friend. However, after looking inside, we find a sick guy transforming into a zombie. Jacob says we should leave the place, and we leave. Jacob tells us to keep looking for a new home site. Eventually we move into the farmhouse. After a while, Alan tells Lily about the presence of the army in Spencer's Mill. When we go there, a soldier named Sergeant Eric Tan tells us to move along, and that they are not there to evacuate the survivors. We are on our own. Meanwhile, Doc Hansen informs Jacob about the death of Eli, which makes him upset. We also find Pastor William behaving strangely. We then go to Marshall Courthouse, where we find Judge Lawton and Sheriff Carl arguing. Judge Lawton explains why she has built a society in the courthouse, and offers us to join her enclave, where all firearms will be surrendered, and only law enforcement officers will be allowed to carry firearms. But we refuse her offer, because we don't want to surrender our guns in the middle of a zombie outbreak. But she gives us an indirect threat of eventually enforcing her laws over everyone. We then help Sheriff Carl get rid of some zombie infestations around. Carl tells us about the first few chaotic days after the outbreak in Marshall, and how Judge Lawton stepped up to restore law and order. Then we hear a distress call from a group of survivors, and save them from zombies. Sheriff Carl bids us farewell. Back at base, we find Marcus and Lily talking about Thomas Ritter. Marcus tells Lily about her father's death, and she thanks him for telling her the truth. Later we receive a message from someone named Ray Santos via Lily. He tells us to visit him in Marshall. Back in the base, Alan tells us that Pastor Will is sick. He tells Lily that if Will doesn't get better, then they have to kill him, which makes Lily upset. A while later, Lily requests us to go back to the ranger station at Mount Tanner, and bring a plastic watch, because the memories of her father are attached to it. A while later, she informs us that Alan has shot Pastor Will. Upon reaching the base, we find Alan, Lily, and Sam fighting over the incident. Sometime later, we receive another message of Ray Santos. We go and meet Ray Santos in Marshall. Ray tells us about his family history, and the importance of community and helping our neighbors in these crucial times. Then he says he will call us later. Back at base, we find out that Alan is sick. Alan tells us that he knows he might not make it alive, so we decide to expel him from our community. You also have the choice to mercy kill him. Later we get another call from Ray Santos. We meet him and find out a racing car that he has put together. We take the car on a delivery mission, and kill some zombies with it along the way. After finishing the mission, Ray bids us farewell, and gifts us the car. After a while, Jacob tells Lily about army jeeps driving around in Marshall. Then we hear another radio call from Judge Lawton. She tells the survivors to contact her for getting an escort. A while later, we hear a distress call from the Marshall courthouse about zombies closing in. We go to the courthouse, and find the place overrun by zombies. We kill the zombies, but find both Judge Lawton and Sheriff Carl dead. We then decide to recruit some members from this enclave to our group. Then we move to a new base, the Snyder Trucking Warehouse. After a while, we learn about survivors getting robbed. We visit the Wilkerson brothers, and decide to ask them about this incident. Job denies the accusations, and says that they give the survivors what they need, but for a price. Later, we go to the ranger station, and recover the plastic watch, which Lily requested. And on the way, we learn about her father. Lily thanks us for bringing back the memento. Later on, we hear a civilian on the radio, telling everyone not to trust the army. We decide to go figure it out. Upon arriving at the location, we find the army holding 2 civilians at gunpoint for violating quarantine. Sergeant Eric Tan, however, lets them go. Captain Montresor tells Sergeant Tan to prepare his men for evacuation. We then recruit those 2 civilians, and bring them to our base. Later, Sergeant Eric Tan asks for our help to kill some zombies. We help the army clear the zombie hordes with mortar fire by sending coordinates. Sometime later, we hear a radio call from Mickey Wilkerson. Upon reaching the Wilkerson's house, we find a guy badly beaten up. The brothers tell us that he is one of their customers, and asks us to take him home. On the road, we learn that he was beaten up, because the Wilkerson brothers decided he was getting behind on his payments. We get him to his home safely. A while later we hear another radio transmission from the army. Sergeant Eric Tan requests for permission to assist a bunch of civilians heavily engaged with zombies, but Captain Montresor doesn't give them the permission to engage. Sergeant Eric Tan denies her orders, and rescues the survivors with our help. Later Lily informs us about a nervous survivor. Upon arriving at the location, we find 2 thugs of the Wilkerson brothers threatening the survivor to pay his debt. We decide to help the survivor and pay his debt. A short while later, we find Sergeant Eric Tan at our base, thanking Lily for providing him assistance. Then one of the thugs of the Wilkersons arrive at our base, and ask for a favor. He asks us to be a neutral observer at a trade between the Wilkerson brothers and some folks. We decide to accept the offer. Then he tasks us with picking up the folks at the ranch, and taking them to the location of the meeting. Lily doesn't sound too happy about this. After we bring them to the location, Job tells us to go home. Soon after leaving the area, we get notified that all 3 of the ranch folks are dead. We head back to the location, and find them dead. After a while, we hear Sergeant Eric Tan over the radio, angrily screaming on the bridge. We arrive at the location, and find Sergeant Eric Tan enraged, because the army wasn't opening the gates and letting him through. Eventually we blow up the gates with explosives, and reach the army camp. We find the place abandoned. Sergeant Eric Tan then goes to the HQ. Later we receive a message from Sergeant Eric Tan and meet him. We find Sergeant Eric Tan talking to a lone soldier. The soldier tells him that the army has evacuated, and left all the sick ones behind. The soldier also mentions the army saying, "Don't drink the water." The soldier dies and Sergeant Tan shoots him. Sergeant Tan tells us about hearing something about the reservoir from the science geeks in the army, right before they locked him out. We go to the reservoir with Sergeant Tan, and find out dead bodies being piled up at the water supply. He tells us that the dead bodies rotting in the water supply is what's known as a bad thing. We ask him about leaving Trumbull Valley, and he says that the army has blocked off the only way out. He tells us to start stockpiling supplies. A while later, we meet Sergeant Tan at the blocked highway. We agree on destroying the wall with explosives, and Sergeant Tan asks us to tell everyone to get ready to move. Later he calls us to go on a mission with him, to collect explosives from a warehouse. While on the road, Lily calls us, and informs us, that she went through some of the records the army had left behind, when they pulled out. They ran out of room in their infirmary, so they started putting the sick anywhere they could find room, including a certain warehouse. That is the same warehouse we are headed to, which is going to be full of zombies. We go to the warehouse, and after a hell of a fight, we finally get our hands on the explosives. At last we go to the wall again with the hopes of leaving Trumbull Valley. Sergeant Eric Tan starts setting the charges, and a massive horde of zombies attack. We hold off the attack with everything we have. After killing all the zombies, Sergeant Eric Tan tries to set off the charges, but the explosives don't explode. Sergeant Eric Tan tells us that there must be a problem with the detonator. He goes to check the detonator, and we prepare for another wave of zombies. After killing all the zombies, Sergeant Tan explains that the detonator has malfunctioned, and there is no way to blow it up from a safe distance. Someone has to manually detonate it. Lily says she will do it, since she is suffering from chronic illness anyway. But Sergeant Tan stops her, and decides to do it himself. He tells everyone to tell their grandkids about him, and to build a statue of him. Then he sets off the charges, and destroys the wall, sacrificing himself like a hero. Lily leaves something by the tree for the people who didn't make it. As the smoke clears, we see corpses and destroyed cars on the other side of the wall, which implies that the outbreak has spread outside Trumbull Valley.